This week, National Australian treasure Hugh Jackman predicted that it's inevitable Australia will become a republic and that it's a natural part of our evolution. Well, if that's his view, that's his view. During the reign of Queen Elizabeth, 14 Commonwealth countries became republics. And last week on the show, Nicholas Owen was firm in his view that this trend would continue during the reign of King Charles. The question for Australia is, what are the drivers for Australia becoming a republic and how will that conversation occur? For the record, I'm firmly in the if it's not broke, don't fix it camp, and I'd need to be swayed that a republic would be a net benefit to Australia. And that's the rub. The proponents of the republicanism span the political spectrum. It isn't a strictly left or right issue. Many consider the notion of monarchy anachronistic and believe Australia has developed enough of its own identity beyond the need of a foreign monarch to front it. Well, that's an argument. It's valid enough. And it's probably an easier sell now than perhaps it was in the past. However, the rampant elitists at the Australian Republican movement remain the greatest gift that monarchists could ever hope for. Instead of framing republicanism in a way that is relevant and digestible to Middle Australia, it's become a narrow ideological revolt, which firmly jolts it to the progressive left and alienates everyday Australians. Last month, the new head of the Australian Republican movement, Craig Foster, tweeted this: "Worthwhile reading for all Australians, the Crown is built on racism and plunder of Indigenous populations, including First Nations. As we learn our own history, the irreconcilable nature of hereditary privilege and historical racism becomes overwhelming." Well, that's quite the word salad, and I wish someone would explain to me how this helps their cause. By forcing republicanism through a contrived and historical prism which bears little relevance to modern Australia, it turns a mainstream issue into a niche ideological one. The Australian Republican movement needs to get out of the weeds and explain to Australians the benefit of moving to a republic. Tell us why it's good for us. Because the belligerent activist hand-wringing will only make the status quo look more palatable for longer. And so if that's Jackman's view, it's fair enough. But where inevitable sits on the time continuum depends largely on how well and how quickly the Australian Republican movement gets its act together. They have to make significant progress during the reign of King Charles because any urgency to become a republic may well dissipate once William takes the throne. This is as much about perception as it is about practical reality. And without a well-explained case, it will remain a theoretical bugbear that no one can be bothered properly addressing.